February 24th, 1900, Volume 3, Luisa Resists Obedience. This morning I was all fear. I believed that everything was fantasy, that is, the devil wanting to deceive me. So whatever I would see, I would despise and I would be displeased. I saw the confessor placing the intention that Jesus would renew in me the pains of the crucifixion, and I tried to resist. At first, blessed Jesus tolerated me, but since the confessor kept repeating the intention, Jesus told me, "My daughter, this time we are really going to fail the obedience. Don't you know that obedience must seal the soul, and that obedience must render the soul like soft wax, in such a way that the confessor may give it the shape he wants?" So heedless of my resistances, he shared with me the pains of the crucifixion, and I, no longer able to resist all this, which I did not want for fear that it might not be Jesus, was forced to succumb under the weight of the pains. May he always be blessed, and may everything be for his glory, in everything and always. February 24th, 1902, Volume 4, The Queen Mother, Star of the Sea on Earth, Star of Light in Heaven. More about the law of divorce. As I was in my usual state, the Queen Mother came and told me, "My daughter, my sorrows, as the prophets say, were a sea of sorrows, and in heaven they have turned into a sea of glory, and each of my sorrows has borne the fruit of as many treasures of grace. And just as on earth they call me Star of the Sea, because I guide them to the harbor with certainty, in heaven they call me Star of Light for all the blessed, because they are delighted by this light that my sorrows produced." In the meantime, my adorable Jesus came, saying to me, "My beloved, there is nothing more dear and pleasing to me than an upright heart, which loves me, and on seeing me suffer, prays me to let it suffer what I suffer. This binds me so much, and has so much power over my heart, that, as recompense, I give it all of myself, and I concede to it the greatest graces and whatever it wants. And if I did not do so, since I gave myself as gift, I feel that, for as many things as I do not give to it, so many thefts do I make from it. That is, so many debts do I contract with it." Afterwards he transported me outside of myself, and Jesus added, "My daughter, there are certain offenses which surpass by far the very offenses I suffered in my passion. Today I have received several of these, to the point that if I did not pour them out in part, my justice would force me to send fierce scourges upon earth. Therefore let me pour into you." After he poured them, I don't know how, hearing him speak about offenses, I said to him, "Lord, what about this law of divorce that they talk about? Is it certain that they will not confirm it?" And he, "For now it is certain. As for 5, 10, or 20 years from now, if I suspend your state of victim or call you to heaven, they may be able to do it. But the prodigy of chaining their will and of confusing them I have done for now. If you knew the rage of the demons and of those who wanted this law, who were certain to obtain it, it is so great that if they could, they would destroy any authority and would make a slaughter everywhere. So in order to mitigate this rage and to prevent these slaughters in part, do you want to expose yourself to their fury a little bit?" And I, "Yes, as long as you come with me." So we went to a place in which there were demons, and people who seemed to be furious, enraged, mad. As soon as they saw me, they ran over me like many wolves, and some would beat me, some would tear my flesh. They would have wanted to destroy me, but did not have the power to do it. As for me, however, though I suffered very much, I did not fear them, because I had Jesus with me. After this I found myself inside myself, as though filled with various pains. May the Lord be always blessed. February 24th, 1905, Volume 6. Humility is a flower without thorns. This morning, Blessed Jesus came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, humility is a flower without thorns, and because it is without thorns, it can be held in one's hand, it can be clasped, it can be placed wherever one wants, without fear of being bothered or pricked. Such is the humble soul. One can say that she does not have the pricks of defects, and since she is without pricks, one can do with her whatever he wants. Not having thorns, naturally she does not prick nor cause bother to others, because thorns are given by one who has them. But if one does not have them, how can he give them? Not only this, but humility is a flower which strengthens and clears one's sight, and with its clearness, it knows how to stay away from the thorns themselves." February 24th, 1910, Volume 9. Luisa is not able to manifest her interior to the confessor. This morning at communion I was lamenting to Jesus, for I am no longer able to manifest my state to the one I am supposed to. Yes, many times I feel filled with him. I seem to touch him everywhere, and even in touching myself I touch Jesus. But I cannot say a word. I would but dissolve myself in Jesus, in the depths of the most strict silence. And if I am forced or spurred on to speak, oh God, what effort I have to make! I feel like a child who feels so very sleepy, and they want to wake her up by force, and so she throws a tantrum. So I said to Jesus, "You have deprived me of everything, of your sufferings, of your favors, of your harmonious, sweet, and gentle voice. I no longer recognize myself from the way I have become. And if you let me comprehend something, it is so deep inside that it does not find the way to come out. Tell me, my life, how should I behave?" And Jesus, "My daughter, if you have me, you have everything, and this must be enough for you. If you feel filled with me, it is a sign that I keep you in the house of my divinity. If a rich person admits a poor one into his house, it is a sign that he will give to the poor one everything he needs, even if he does not always speak to him or caress him. Otherwise it would be a dishonor for the rich one. Am I not more than the rich one? Therefore calm yourself and try to manifest what you can to obedience. As for the rest, leave everything to my care." February 24th, 1912, Volume 11. The soul who lives in the divine will loses her temperament and acquires that of Jesus. After I saw several souls around Jesus, especially one who was more sensitive, Jesus told me, "My daughter, if the souls with sensitive temperament start doing good, they make more progress than the others, because their sensitivity leads them to great and arduous enterprises." I prayed that he would take those remains of human sensitivity away from that soul, and that he would squeeze her more to himself and tell her that he loved her, for he would conquer her completely as soon as she heard that he loved her. You will see that you will succeed. Did you not conquer me in this way, telling me that you love me very, very much? And Jesus, yes, Yes, I will do it, but I want her cooperation, that she will escape as much as she can from the people who excite her sensitivity. So I added, "My love, tell me, what is your temperament?" And Jesus, "One who lives in my will loses her temperament and acquires mine. So the soul who lives in my will finds in herself a pleasant, attractive, penetrating, dignified temperament, and altogether simple, a childlike simplicity. In some she looks like me in everything. Even more, she keeps her temperament within her power as she wants and as it's needed. Since she lives in my will, she takes part in my power, so she keeps at her disposal all things and herself. According to the circumstances and to the people she deals with, she takes my temperament and applies it. Tell me, will you give me a first place in your will?" Jesus smiled. Yes, yes, I promise you. I will never let you out of my will, and you will take and do whatever you want." Jesus, I want to be poor, poor, little, little. I don't want anything even of your things. It is better if you keep them. I want only you, and you will give me things as I need them. Isn't it true, O Jesus? And Jesus, "Brava, brava, my daughter. Finally I have found someone who does not want anything. Everyone wants something from me, but not the all. That is myself only. While by wanting nothing, you want everything. And here is the fineness and the astuteness of true love." I smiled, and he disappeared. February 24th, 1917, Volume 11. In receiving communion, the soul must be consumed in Jesus, and give him the complete glory of his sacramental life in the name of all. Having received communion, I was holding my sweet Jesus tightly to my heart, and I said, "My life, how I wish I could do what you yourself did in receiving yourself sacramentally, so that you may find your own contentments, your own prayers, your reparations in me." And my always lovable Jesus told me, "My daughter, in this small circle of the host I enclose everything, and this is why I wanted to receive myself, to do complete acts which would glorify the Father worthily, as creatures would receive a God. And I gave to creatures the complete fruit of my sacramental life. Otherwise it would have been incomplete for the glory of the Father and for the good of creatures. This is why in each host there are my prayers, my thanksgivings, and everything else which was needed to glorify the Father, and which the creature was supposed to do for me. So if the creature fails, I continue my crafting in each host, as if I were receiving myself again for each soul. Therefore the soul must transform herself in me, form one single thing with me, make my life, my prayers, my moans of love, my pains her own, as well as my heartbeats of fire, with which I would want to ignite them. But I find no one who abandons herself as prey to my flames. In this host I am reborn. I live, I die, and I consume myself. But I find no one who consumes herself for me. And if the soul repeats what I do, I feel myself being repeated as if I were receiving myself once again, and I find complete glory, divine contentments, outpourings of love that match me, and I give to the soul the grace to be consumed of my own consummation. February 24th, 1919, Volume 12, Man, the Masterpiece of the Creative Power. Luisa must give God homage for every act of man. As I was in my usual state, blessed Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, you have said nothing about the creation of man, the masterpiece of the creative power, in whom, not in sprays, but in waves, in rivers, did the Eternal One pour his love, his beauty, his mastery. And taken by excess of love, he placed himself as the center of man. But he wanted a residence worthy of him. So what does this uncreated majesty do? He creates man in his image and likeness. He draws a breath from the depth of his love and infuses life in him with his omnipotent breath, endowing man with all his qualities, proportioned to a creature, making of him a little God. Therefore, everything you see in the creation was absolutely nothing compared to the creation of man. Oh, how many more beautiful heavens, stars, and suns did he extend in the created soul! How much variety of beauty, how many harmonies! It is enough to say that he looked at the created man, and he found him so beautiful as to be enamored with him. Jealous of this portent of his, he himself became the custodian and possessor of man, and said, "I have created everything for you. I give you dominion over everything. All is yours, and you will be all mine." You will not be able to comprehend everything, the seas of love, the intimate and direct relations, the likeness that runs between creator and creature. Ah, daughter of my heart, if the creature knew how beautiful her soul is, how many divine qualities it contains, how it surpasses all created things in beauty, in power, in light, to the extent that one can say that it is a little God, and contains a little world within itself. Oh, how much more would she esteem herself, and would not smear with the slightest sin such a rare beauty, such a portentous prodigy of the creative power. But the creature, almost blind in knowing herself, and much more blind in knowing her Creator, keeps dirtying herself among 1,000 filthy things, to the point of disfiguring the work of the Creator, so much so that she can barely be recognized. You, yourself, think of what our sorrow is. Therefore come into my will, and come with me to substitute for our brothers before the throne of the Eternal One, for all the acts which they should do, for having been created as a prodigy of love of his omnipotence, and yet they are so ungrateful. In one instant we found ourselves before this supreme majesty, and in the name of all, we expressed our love, thanksgiving, adoration, for having created us with such an excess of love, and endowed us with so many beautiful qualities. February 24th, 1922, Volume 14. The cross of one who lives in the divine will becomes similar to the cross of Jesus. As I was in my usual state, my always adorable Jesus made himself seen in the act of taking up his cross and placing it on his most holy shoulders. And he told me, "My daughter, when I received the cross, I looked at it from top to bottom, to see the place that each soul would take in my cross. Among so many of them I looked with more love, and I paid a more special attention to those who would be resigned and would live in my will. I looked at them, and I saw their cross, long and large, just as mine, because my will made up for all that their cross lacked, making it longer and larger like mine. Oh, how your long cross stood out, so very long because of many years of bed, and suffered only to fulfill my will. My cross existed only to fulfill the will of my celestial Father. and yours to fulfill my will. One gave honor to the other, and since both of them had the same measure, they blended together. Now, my will has the virtue of softening hardness, of soothing bitterness, of extending and enlarging short things. So when I felt the cross upon my shoulders, I felt the softness and sweetness of the cross of the souls who would suffer in my will. Oh, my heart heaved a sigh of relief, and the softness of the crosses of these souls made my cross adapt to my shoulders, sinking too much into it as to make me a deep wound. And although it gave me a sharp pain, I also felt the softness and the sweetness of the souls who would suffer in my will. And since my will is eternal, their suffering, their reparations, their acts ran within each drop of my blood, in each wound, in each offense. My will made them be as though present at the offenses of the past, from the moment the first man sinned, up to the present and future offenses. They were the ones who returned to me the rights of my will, and for love of them I decreed redemption. And if others enter into it, it is because of these souls that they partake in it. There is no good I concede, either in heaven or on earth, which is not because of them. February 24th, 1924, Volume 16. How the goods and the law of redemption were deposited by Jesus in the heart of his most holy mother. And this is what the Church knows. In the same way, he placed the eternal law of the divine will in Luisa. Immensity of one single act done in it. I felt immersed in the divine will, and I thought to myself, who knows how many more things on his will my sweet Jesus say to other souls? If he said so many things to me, who am so unworthy and incapable, who knows how many more sublime things he will say to the others who are good? And my adorable Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, all the law and the goods of redemption were written by me and deposited in the heart of my dear mamma. It was fair that, being the first who lived in my will, and who therefore drew me from heaven and conceived me in her womb, she know all the laws and be the depository of all the goods of redemption. And when going out for my public life I manifested it to the peoples, to the apostles, I did not add one comma, and not because I was unable to do so. And the apostles themselves and the whole church have added nothing else to what I said and did when I was upon earth. The church has added no other gospel and instituted no additional sacrament. Rather, she always turns to all that I myself did and said. It is necessary that one who has been called as first receive the depths of all that good which I want to do to all human generations. It is true that the Church has interpreted the gospel and has written much on all that I did and said, but she never departed from my source, from the origin of my teachings. The same will be with my will. I will place in you the depths of the eternal law of my will, all that is necessary, so that it may be understood, and the teachings which are needed. And if the Church will develop explanations, comments, she will never depart from the origin, from the source constituted by me. And if anyone will want to depart, he will remain without light and in obscure darkness, and if he wants light, he will be forced to go back to the source, that is, to my teachings. On hearing this, I said, my sweet love, when kings constitute laws, they call their ministers as witnesses of the laws, which they establish in order to place them in their hands, that they may make them public and observed by the peoples. I am not a minister. On the contrary, I am so little and incapable as to be good at nothing." And Jesus added, "I am not like the kings of the earth, who deal with the great. I prefer to deal with little ones, because they are more docile and attribute nothing to themselves, but everything to my goodness. But in spite of this, I too chose one of my ministers, who would assist you in this state of yours. And as much as you begged me to free you from his daily coming, I did not listen to you. And even if you were no longer subject to fall back into that state, I will not allow you that you lack his assistance. This was the reason for which you had to have one of my ministers, so that he would be aware of the law of my will, and knowing my teachings, he would be witness and depository of a law so holy, and as my faithful minister, he would make public within my church the great good which I wanted to do to her by making my will known." Then I remained so immersed in the divine will that I felt as if I were swimming inside an immense sea. My poor mind wandered around, and somewhere I took a drop of divine will, somewhere else another drop, and so pieces of knowledge of it poured so much into me that my capacity was unable to receive them all. And I said to myself, "How great, profound, high, immense, and holy is your will, O my Jesus! You want to put together all that regards it, and I, being little, drown in it. Therefore, if you want me to comprehend all that you want to make me understand, infuse it in me little by little. In this way I will be able to manifest it to whomever you want." And Jesus, "My daughter, indeed my will is immense. It contains all eternity. If you knew the good which even one single word on my will and one single act done in it by the creature contain, you would be stunned. In that act she takes heaven and earth as though in her power. My will is life of all and flows everywhere, and together with my will she flows in every affection, in every heartbeat, in every thought, and in all the rest that creatures do. She flows in every act of her Creator, in every good I do, in the light I send to the intelligence, in the forgiveness I give out, in the love I send forth, in the love I ignite, in the blessed souls I beatify, in everything. There is no good I do or point of eternity in which she does not have her little place. Oh, how dear she is to me! How inseparable I feel her from me! She is the true faithful of my will, and she never leaves it alone. Therefore run into it, and you will find out for yourself what I am telling you." And as he was saying this, I plunged into the sea of his will, and I ran. But who can say all? I touched everything. I flew everywhere. And I found out for myself what Jesus was telling me. But I am unable to put it on paper. If Jesus wants, he will give me more capacity. For now, I stop here. February 24th, 1932, Volume 30, Continuous Rebirths of the Creature in the Divine Will. How the Creature Becomes Protector of the Divine Works. I am always in the arms of the divine will, that more than a mother keeps me clasped in its arms, surrounded by its light, in order to infuse in me its life of heaven. It seems to me that it is all attention in order to have its great glory of having a daughter all of divine will, who has taken no other food, who knows no other science, nor other law, nor other tastes or pleasures, then only its will. And therefore, in order to keep me occupied and alienated from everything, it makes me so many surprises. It tells me so many beautiful things, one more beautiful than the other, but always things that pertain to it, in a way that my poor mind remains as enraptured and plunged in its arms of light. And everything that it has done, even though it has put them outside of itself, it still holds them all centralized in itself, so much so that if one looks inside of his will, one finds a single act. If one looks outside of it, one finds innumerable works and acts that cannot be counted. I felt in it the beginning of my existence, as if at that point I was about to go forth to the light, and I remained surprised. And my beloved Jesus, making me his brief little visit, told me, "My daughter, born and reborn in my volition, every time, with your full knowledge, you abandon yourself in its arms of light and remain within, so many times are you reborn in it, and these rebirths are one more beautiful and striking than the next. This is why I have so many times called you the little newborn of my will, because while you are reborn, you return to be reborn, because it does not know how to be idle with one who lives together with it, but it wants to always occupy itself with being reborn in a continuous way in the creature, absorbing her continuously in itself, so much so that my Fiat is reborn in her, and she is reborn in my will. These rebirths on both parts are lives that are exchanged with each other, and this is the attestation of the greatest love, the most perfect act, to be reborn, exchanging life with each other, in order to be able to tell each other, "See how much I love you, that I give you not acts, but continuous life." This is the reason, my daughter, for one who lives in my divine will. It places this fortunate creature in the prime act of her creation. She feels her beginning in God, the creative, vivifying, and conserving virtue of his omnipotent breath, that if it withdraws itself, she returns into her nothing from which she came forth. And therefore she vividly feels her continuous rebirth in the arms of her Creator. And feeling herself at her beginning, the creature gives back to God the prime act of life that she received from him. That is the most holy, most solemn, most beautiful act of God himself. After this I continued my round in the acts of the divine will, and oh, how I would want to embrace everything, even what all the blessed have done, in order to give to each act an honor and glory to God and to the saints, and make use of the means of these same acts done by them in order to honor them. And my beloved Jesus added, "My daughter, when the creature remembers, honors, and glorifies what her Creator and her Redeemer has done for love of her, in order to place it and all the saints in safety, she becomes protector of all of these acts. The sky, the sun, and the whole of creation feel themselves protected by the creature. My earthly life down here, my pains, my tears, feel a refuge in her and find their protector. The saints find not only protection in her remembrance, but their same acts vivified and renewed in the midst of creatures. In some, they feel life being re-given in their acts. Oh, how many beautiful works and virtues remain as buried in the low world, because there is no one who remembers and honors them. The remembrance recalls the works of the past and makes them as present. But do you know what happens? An exchange occurs. By her remembrance, the creature becomes protector of all our works. Creation, redemption, and everything that the saints have done become protectors of their protector. They place themselves around her in order to protect her, defend her, and act as sentinel for her. And while they find refuge in her in order to be protected, our every work, all my pains, and all the works and virtues of my saints compete, exchanging to make a guard of honor for her so that she remains defended by everyone and everything. And then there is no greater honor that you can give than you make use of them to ask for the kingdom of the divine will in each act. They feel themselves called and place themselves as messengers between heaven and earth for a kingdom so holy. You must know that past, present, and future all must serve the kingdom of the divine Fiat. Now by your remembrance, asking by means of our works, virtues, and the acts of everyone for this kingdom, everyone feels placed at its service, and they take their office and place of honor. In fact, your going around is necessary because it serves to prepare the kingdom of the divine will. Therefore be attentive and continue. February 24th, 1933, Volume 31, The Truth, Seed, Celestial Farmer and Human Sower. Immutability of divine ways. What purpose pains and contradictions serve? My little mind was all occupied by the so many truths that blessed Jesus had manifested about the divine will, and each one of them presented itself as portent, one distinct from the other, but a divine portent, not human, not of earth, but of heaven. And they remained as all in act of wanting to assail the creature in order to communicate to her and transform her into their portentous virtue, all celestial and divine. But while my mind was so occupied, I thought to myself, and yet before a truth so celestial and divine, in which the shadow of the human does not exist, so lovable, so penetrating, holy, full of lights are they. Each one of them encloses the life, the love, the sanctity of he who has manifested them. Yet there are those who, reading something about these truths, are doubtful. They make difficulties, and you know it, O Jesus. Everything is known by you. And I felt all oppressed and yearned for my sweet Jesus in order to tell him my pain. And he, surprising me, told me, "My good daughter, do not afflict yourself for this. You must know that in order to know one truth, one needs to love it. Love makes the appetite arise. The appetite gives the taste. The taste makes arise the hunger of eating to fullness and chewing very well the substance of a food, that is, my truths. Chewing them produces easy digestion in a way that one feels the possession of the great good that my truth possesses and produces, and then the doubts cease. The difficulties melt like snow before the rays of a burning sun. Now, if they have hardly touched them without eating them with a profound study, with a love that generates the appetite, what wonder is it that they make doubts and difficulties? Oh, how it would have been better to say, "It is not food for us, nor do we have the will to eat it," rather than give judgments. But one knows that my truths find a place more in simple hearts than learned. This happened in my redemption. To my sorrow, not one learned one followed me, but all the poor, ignorant, simple ones. You must know that my truths are seeds that I, celestial farmer, continue to sow in souls. And if I make my sowing, With certainty I must gather the fruit. Many times it happens to me as to a poor sower who casts his seed into the earth, but for lack of moisture, the earth does not have the strength to eat the seed in order to digest it and convert it into earth, and give the substance that has been absorbed from the seed to give to the poor farmer 10, 20, 100 of the seed that the earth has eaten. Other times he casts his seed, but for lack of rain, the earth becomes hard over the seed, and the substance of the seed that it encloses does not find a way to make life go forth, and the poor farmer must have patience to receive the harvest of his seeds. But still, by having sown the seed, he has already done something, and can hope. Who knows? A rain can give moisture to the earth that, possessing the substance of his seed, will put forth what he has sown. Or else cutting the hardness, tilling it, forms the way in order to let his seed reproduce, so that, in spite of the fact that the earth does not immediately produce the multiplicity of the seed that it received, with time, circumstances, rain, it can produce a most abundant harvest that the sower did not expect. Now, if the farmer, despite all the difficulties of the earth, can hope to receive an abundant harvest, more so I, celestial farmer, having put forth from my divine bosom the so many seeds of celestial truths, in order to sow them in the depth of your soul, and the whole world will be filled by the harvest. Do you want to believe, therefore, that because of the doubts and difficulties of a few, some like earth without moisture, some like hard and calloused earth, I would not make my superabundant harvest? My daughter, you are mistaken. The time, the people, the circumstances change, and what today can be seen black, tomorrow will be seen white, because many times one sees according to the predispositions they have, and according to the sight, either long or short, that the intellect possesses. Poor little ones, one needs compassion for them, but everything is in that I have already made the sowing in her, the thing most necessary, most substantial, most interesting, that is, manifested my truths. If I have done my labor, the main part has been put forth in work. I have found your earth in order to cast my seed. The rest will come by itself. And the doubts, the difficulties, the pains, serve just like the wood, the fire, the poor farmer would make use of in order to cook the harvested seed and make of it his food. They serve for me and you as sons, in order to make my truths mature in hearts, as wood and fire in order to give them not with words alone, but with practice, and by the sacrifice of the fire of their own life, to cook them in order to convert it into the sweetest food, and to feed it to the creatures. My daughter, if I had wanted to listen to what was said about me, and to the contradictions that they made to me about the truths that I manifested when I came upon earth, I would not have formed the redemption, nor manifested my gospel. And yet they were the most learned, the noblest part, some who had studied scriptures, and some who taught religion to the people. I let them talk, and with love and invincible patience I endured their continuous contradictions, and they served me as wood for the pains that they gave me, in order to burn and consume myself on the cross for the love of them and of everyone. The same today. If I would want to listen to what they say about the truths of my divine will, I would have put an end to the manifestations about it and to the designs that I want to fulfill by manifesting them. But no, we are not subject to changeability. The human work has this weakness, and acts according to the appreciation that others make them. But us? No. The divine work is immutable. When we decide there is no one who changes us, neither all creatures nor all hell. Nevertheless, with our inextinguishable love, we wait for times, circumstances, and people who would serve us for what we have established. Therefore, I do not want you to worry. And making our divine ways yours, if necessary, place the sacrifice of your life in order to obtain that my divine will be known and reign in the whole world. My sweet Jesus became silent, and I continued to think about the impossibility that the divine will can reign on earth as in heaven. And Jesus, sighing, added, "Blessed daughter, what is impossible for men is completely possible for God. And if it were impossible that my will could reign on earth as in heaven, my all-paternal goodness would not have taught the prayer of the Our Father, because to make impossible things prayed for I would not have done, nor would I have recited it with so much love as first, placing myself at the head of all. Nor would I have taught it to the apostles, so that they could teach it to the whole world as the most beautiful and most substantial prayer of my church. I do not want impossible things, nor do I demand from the creature, nor do I myself do impossible things. Therefore, if it would have been impossible that my divine will come to reign on earth as it does in heaven, I would have taught a prayer useless and without effect. And I do not know how to do useless things. At the most, I wait, even centuries, but I must make the fruit of my taught prayer arise, even more because gratuitously, without anyone having told me, I gave this great good that my will would be done on earth as it is in heaven. The same for creation. I myself, without anyone having prayed me, extended the heavens. I created the sun and everything else. The same for my will. Completely spontaneous, I told them, "Pray that my will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And when spontaneously, "Pray this will happen," is said, without anyone having importuned me, it means that first I looked at everything in my all-seeingness. I pondered things very well, and when I saw that this was possible, then I decided to teach the Our Father, wanting the human will united to ours, so that it might yearn that it would come to reign on earth as it does in heaven. Therefore, everything I have manifested about my will is enclosed in these words alone: "May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." In these few words are contained abysses of graces, of sanctity, of light, and abysses of communication and divine transformations between the Creator and creature. My daughter, it was the regal gift that your Jesus made to the human generations as fulfillment of my redemption. My love was not yet content. My sufferings had not brought me full satisfaction. I wanted to still give. I wanted to see my heaven on earth in the midst of my children. Therefore, a few days before departing for heaven, first I decided to give my will on earth as it is in heaven, and afterwards I taught the Our Father, in which I remained committed to giving this great gift. And your Jesus, when he commits himself, never fails to keep his word. Therefore do not place doubts, and if the others doubt, let them, because they do not know how I would develop things. I have power and will in my hands, and that is enough for me. And you, remain in peace, and always follow my volition. Trust your Jesus, and you will see. February 24th, 1934. Volume 33. By doing her will, the creature loses the head, the divine reason, the order, the regimen. Jesus is the head of the creature. While I continued my round in the divine will, its sweet empire, its irresistible strength, its love, and its inextinguishable light, re-poured themselves over my littleness that has enraptured, found itself in the sea of the divine will. And oh, the sweet surprises, its always new ways, its enrapturing beauty, its immensity that carries everyone and everything as in its womb. But what strikes one more is its love for the creature. It seems that it is all eye in order to look at her, all heart in order to love her, all hands and feet in order to carry her clasped to its bosom and in order to give her the step. Oh, how it yearns to give its life to the creature, so that she could live of its. It seems that it is a delirium that it has, a pledge that it has taken, a victory that, at whatever cost it wants to make, that its life would form the life of the creature. Therefore my mind was lost in the midst of this spectacle of love of the divine will. And my sweet Jesus, all tenderness, told me, "My daughter, by doing his will man lost the head, the divine reason, the regimen, the order of his Creator. And since he lost the head, all the members wanted to act as head. But since the office of the members is not to have the virtue and ability of acting as head, they did not know how to have the regimen, nor the order among themselves, and one member placed itself against the other, and they were divided among themselves such that they remained as scattered members, because they did not possess the unity of the head. But our Supreme Being loved man, and seeing him without the head made us suffer, and was the greatest of dishonors to our creative work. Nor could we tolerate a torment so great in him whom we loved so much. This is why our divine will dominated us, and our love conquered us, and making me descend from heaven to earth, constituted me the head of man, and reunited all the scattered members under my head. And the members acquired the regimen, the order, the union, and the nobility of the head. In fact, my incarnation, everything that I did and suffered, and my death itself, was nothing other than the way that I made in order to seek these scattered members, and by virtue of my divine head, to make flow the life, the heat, and the resurrection of the dead members, in order to form of all the human generations one single body under my divine head. How much it cost me, but my love made me overcome everything, face all the sufferings, and triumph over everything. Now, my daughter, do you see therefore what it means not to do my will? To lose the head, to separate themselves from my body, and as detached members, with difficulty and gropingly, to walk down here as so many monsters, such as to cause pity. All the good of the creature is centralized in my divine will, and forms our glory and that of the human generations. This is the reason for our delirium, our pledge, and we want to conquer by way of love and unheard of sacrifices, so that the creature live of our will. So be attentive and content your Jesus. February 24th, 1935, Volume 33. Reason, the eye of the soul, is light that makes her know the beauty of her good works. What are the rights of the divine will? How in it there are no intentions, but acts. I am always in the arms of the divine will, And although between the intense bitternesses of the privations of my sweet Jesus, that more than sea inundates my poor soul, its inaccessible light that it is not given to me either to enclose completely in my soul, nor to understand it, never leaves me. Rather, the sea of my bitternesses superabounds. It makes use of it as victory and conquest that it makes over my poor human will. So I thought to myself that all the value, all the good, it seems to me that everything is of the divine will, and nothing remains to me. But while I thought this, my sweet Jesus, my dear life, making his brief little visit, all goodness told me, "My blessed daughter, you must know that we gifted the creature with reason so that she would know the good and evil that she did. And in every act that she could do, if good, she would be gifted with new merit, new grace, new beauty, and greater union with her Creator. If bad, she would endure suffering from it. That suffering makes felt the weakness and distance from He who had created her. Reason is the eye of the soul and light that, while the creature makes her way, it lets her know the beauty of her good works, the fruit of her sacrifices, and it knows how to torture her when she does evil. Reason has this virtue. If the creature operates good, she feels herself at her place of honor, and as king of herself she has order, and in virtue of the merit that she acquires, she feels strength and peace. And if she does evil, she feels completely disordered and slave of her own evils. Now, if the creature does good acts in my divine will, in virtue of the reason that she has, we give her the merit of divine acts. The merit is given to her according to what she knows and according to what the human will wants to operate. If in ours, she elevates herself so much that she does not remain in the depths of human actions, although good, but she comes into our divine volition, and as sponge she dives within and soaks her acts with light, with sanctity, with love, in a way that her act disappears in ours, and our divine act reappears. Therefore with justice the divine merit must flow, and since in our divine will she loses the human prestige, one thinks that the creature does nothing, but it is not true. If it operates, it is in virtue of the thread of the human volition that it has received in its hands, that forms the triumph and its conquests over the act of the creature, and of the human reason that voluntarily comes to ceding its received rights as homage and mastery to he who has received her. And this is more than doing, because God has received the exchange for the most beautiful gifts that he gave to the creature, that is, reason and will. With this, she gives us everything that she can give us. She recognizes us. She strips herself of herself. She loves us with pure love. And so much is our love that we clothe her with ourselves. We give her our works in a way that we and she can say, we do it together. We will place each other in the conditions that the creature will not be able to do anything without our will. And so much is our goodness that even when the creature does good humanly, since reason always flows in good, we give her the human merit, because it is our usual way to not leave not even one good act of the creature without reward. One can say that we are all eyes over her in order to see in what we could reward her. After this he was silent, and I continued to think how this divine will is all eyes over us. It loves us so much and never leaves us one instant. And my sweet Jesus resumed by saying, "My daughter, my divine will is everything for the creature. Without it, she would not be able to live even 1 minute. All her acts, motions, and steps can be called feedings, servings that my volition makes her, and the creature receives them. She feels them in herself and does not know either who feeds her nor who gives life to her life. And therefore for many it is as if my will were not for them, and they do not give it the rights owed that it is appropriate to give it. So it is necessary that they know what are these rights of my divine volition, in order that by knowing them they could exchange it and know who is the one who is the life of their life, and that they are nothing other than the coverings, statues, animated by it. Now the rights are innumerable: right of creation, right of conservation, of continuous animation. Everything that it has created and that serves for the well-being of man constitutes one of its rights over him. Therefore the sun, the air, the wind, the water, the earth, and everything have been created and given to man by my will. So, for however many things it has given him, so many more rights it has over man. My redemption, the pardon after sin, my grace, the good to operate, are greater rights that it acquires over him. One can say that he is as needed in my will, and yet it is not known. What sorrow not to be recognized! Now, in order to have the triumph, the life of my will in the creature, it is necessary that she knows what it has done, what it does for love of her, and what its just rights are. And when she knows this, she will place herself in order with my volition. She will feel the one who it is who gives her life, the one who moves in her motion, the one who beats in her heart. And while she will receive from it life that forms her life, she will re-give to it as homage, love, and glory that same life that it forms in her. Then my will receive its rights, and everything that is its, that was so much love it had given her, will return into its womb of light. In sum, it will feel reborn again in its arms, she who with so much love it had created. Oh, if everyone knew the rights of my will, its ardent and constant love that is so much that while it gives her life, it puts her forth to the light of day. More than mother, so much is its jealousy of love, that it does not leave her for 1 instant. It invests her inside and outside, from above and from below, to the right and to the left. And although the creature might not know it, nor love it, with divine heroism it continues to love her, and to make itself life and bearer of the acts of the creature. O my will, you alone know how to love with heroic, strong, incredible, and infinite love her whom you created and who does not even recognize you. Human ingratitude, how great you are! So I felt that I touched with my hand the great love of the divine Fiat, and I thought to myself, how can one live in it? Perhaps by always placing the intention of living in it? And my always lovable Jesus added, my good daughter, living in my will there are no intentions. Intention serves for when they cannot do the acts, because there lacks the one who has the virtue of giving life to all the good that the creature wants to do. And this is outside of living in my volition, and I give the merit to them not as acts, but as holy intentions. On the other hand, my will is the vivifying, active, and operating virtue, in a way that for everything that the creature wants to do, she finds the one who forms the life of her acts. She feels the vivifying strength that vivifies her act, and it converts into works. Therefore, in my will, all things change. All things possess the life, the love, the prayer, the adoration, the good that she wants to do. All the virtues are full of life. Therefore, they are not subject to ending, to changing, because the one who administers life to her keeps her with itself, so that they live together, and I give her the merit of works animated by my will. What difference between the intention and the works! The intention symbolizes the poor, the sick, who, not being able to do, they would want to at least with their good will exercise charity, propagate good, do who knows how many beautiful things. But poverty, sickness, hinders them, and renders them almost prisoners without being able to attain the good that they want to do. On the other hand, operating in my divine will symbolizes the rich, who, having riches at her disposition, the intention has no value, because if she wants, she can do charity. She can go where she wants. She can do good to everyone, help everyone. Such and so many are the riches of my volition, that the creature loses herself in it, and with full hands she can take what she wants in order to help everyone, and even more, without making either noise or racket. Almost like light, she silently brings help, then withdraws. End of February 24th. Fiat.